running into my husband and his first love on the plane. After a month-long training, without telling my husband, I took a plane straight home, wanting to surprise him. Unexpectedly, on the plane, I heard a very familiar voice from the passengers behind me. "If you want to keep this child, I'll stay with you through the pregnancy. Even though the child doesn't have a biological father, I will treat him like my own. The fatherly love others have, he won't lack in the slightest. When we get back, I'll find you the best hospital and the top doctors. If you need me, I'll be there to help raise him, giving him the best material conditions and education. If you don't want to have his child, I'll go with you to the hospital. Once you're back, leave that bastard behind and don't be afraid. Be good, I'm here for you." I didn't turn my head back, nor could I believe my own ears. I dared not look, but I could already picture the man holding the woman in his arms. After realizing that the passengers sitting behind me were probably my husband and a woman, I quickly wrapped myself up, put on my mask and hat, and wore a loose coat I had bought during an external training session. I had never worn it at home before, so my husband Kevin had never seen it. Then I heard the man say to the woman, "Luna, I never dreamed you'd come back to me. Sleep now." When we got off the plane, I indeed saw the main characters behind me, Kevin with a woman, probably the one he called Luna. I had heard him mention her before, she was his first love. Because he had no money back then, his family was from the countryside with poor financial conditions, he couldn't keep her. She left with a man 16 years older than her, a wealthy man, and moved to another city. I watched as he supported Luna, carefully and slowly walking, which made me quite anxious. I didn't want to walk ahead of them, so I had no choice but to follow slowly behind. Kevin's car should be parked in the airport lot. I saw them heading in that direction, so I called Kevin. He didn't answer. After calling 3 times, he finally picked up. I said, "Honey, my training is over. I'll be flying back soon. Do you want to come pick me up?" He paused for a moment and said, "Oh, it's over so soon?" I replied, "Soon? It's been 2 months already. Everyone's been missing you. Don't you miss me?" He immediately laughed and said, Oh, of course I want you to come back soon, but baby, I don't have time to pick you up today. I'm not even home, I'm on a business trip out of town." I said, "Ah. Well, that's unfortunate. Looks like I'll have to go home by myself then." After hanging up, I took a taxi straight to the mall and used his credit card to buy myself a ring, a gold and pearl necklace, an LV bag, and from head to toe, I bought myself a whole new outfit and shoes. He must have received a text notification saying, "Wife, you never used to spend money on the credit card, so why are you suddenly so generous today?" I said, "We're family, right? If I don't spend your money, you won't feel at ease, will you? We'll earn it back after spending it. Besides, I know people at the bank. Once it's all spent, I'll help you get a loan." Yes, he used to ask me to use his credit card, but I never did because I felt that starting a business wasn't easy for him. Although the initial capital for the startup was mine, and the loan was secured through my connections. However, I could feel how hard he worked to make money, so I never dared to spend his money. In the past 2 years, his company's business has grown, and the year-end profits have been quite substantial. Still, I was reluctant to use his money. On one hand, I really didn't need to spend much, on the other, I didn't like buying luxury goods. But today, I decided to make an exception. Spending his money felt incredibly satisfying and liberating, like a sweet revenge. After all, we're not divorced yet, so I feel perfectly justified using his money. After returning home, the next day I went to get my hair done and signed up for a membership at a beauty salon. I deliberately reminded him that part of the money he earns is actually mine. After I got home, Kevin didn't come back for a whole week. But I thought, it's just as well he's not home, I have plenty of time to spend his money. Feeling unwell and having missed my period for over a month, I went to the hospital's gynecology department. The doctor said I might be pregnant and advised me to go to obstetrics and gynecology. At the entrance of the obstetrics and gynecology department, I saw Kevin and his first love waiting in the same area. I wasn't prepared to run into them here, but when our eyes met, it was too late for me to hide. I saw the panic in Kevin's eyes. "Evelyn, what are you doing here?" I glanced at his hand. It was still resting on the woman's shoulder. He quickly pulled it away and said, let me introduce you. This is Luna. I'm here to accompany her for a prenatal checkup." In front of so many pregnant women and their families, I was alone. Everyone else had their husbands by their side. Now my husband spoke to me like that. If he said one more word, I might lose control of my emotions, making a fool of myself in front of everyone and making them the joke instead. So, I held back, nodded, smiled faintly, and pretended not to be very familiar. I sat a little farther away from them. Kevin came over to me and whispered, "Honey, what's wrong? Why are you here?" Before I could answer, Luna called out, Kevin, I'm feeling a bit unwell. Can you come with me to the bathroom? I think I'm bleeding." After she said that, everyone looked at her. Kevin immediately ran to her side and helped her out. I struggled to suppress my anger, calm myself down, and went to see the doctor. Sure enough, the doctor told me I was pregnant. This was undoubtedly a heavy bombshell, disrupting the calm of my life. We had been married for 4 years and had only one son. He had always wanted a daughter, but at the time, I needed to prepare for the judicial exam, and his company was just starting out. Neither the finances nor the timing were right. So it wasn't until now, after I had passed my judicial exam and his company had fully gotten on track, with considerable profits over the past 2 years, that we planned to have a second child. After my prenatal checkup, they still hadn't returned. During that time, Kevin called me and asked, "Evelyn, why did you go to the obstetrics and gynecology clinic? Could it be that you're pregnant?" I didn't answer his question directly. Instead, I asked him, "Where did you go on your business trip? Was it to Luna's bed?" He said, "Evelyn, you're misunderstanding. It really wasn't what you saw. Wait until I get home, and I'll explain everything to you." I said, "People always say hearing is unreliable, seeing is believing, but you say what I saw isn't real. Then tell me, is what I heard real? You have to treat her child like your own. Don't be afraid, everything depends on you. What's your relationship with her?" You, Evelyn, what are you saying? How do you know?" On the other end of the phone, he tried to argue again, but I hung up. My heart was in turmoil. This child really came at the worst time. What should I choose? The marriage is definitely over, but what about the child? The child is innocent. I've already let one child be innocent. I can't let the baby in my belly be born into a single-parent family from the start. After dinner, Kevin came back from outside, looking a bit tired. As soon as he walked in, he hugged me and said, "I'm sorry, Evelyn, these past few days have been hard on you. But things really aren't as you saw them. I was just showing friendship, hospitality as a host. She's quite pitiful. Her husband abuses her and calls the child in her womb a bastard. But she's pregnant, and here she has no relatives, no friends. In this world, she has no family. There aren't many close friends she can confide in, the closest is me. If I were so cold-hearted as to lack even this bit of compassion, you wouldn't like me, right?" I smiled and said, "Right, I was a bit stingy over the phone during the day." That night, Kevin wanted to be intimate with me, but I refused and told him I wasn't feeling well inside. I didn't tell him about the pregnancy. But he seemed to have forgotten that I went to the hospital that morning, so he didn't ask. To make him think I wasn't opposed to him visiting his ex-girlfriend, I acted as if it was no big deal. The next morning, Kevin got up early as usual to prepare breakfast for me. While I was still washing up, he finished eating and went to work. Actually, I knew in my heart that everything at the company was back on track now, and he didn't really need to go to the office so early. So, I quietly followed him out the door. It turned out that his ex-girlfriend lived in the neighboring community to ours. At the time, probably thinking it would be convenient to take care of her, and knowing I was on a business trip, plus that I was rarely home during the day and didn't go out at night, so we wouldn't run into each other, he let her stay in the community closest to my home. Just as I saw him enter Building 7 of the neighboring community, I received a Facebook friend request notification from his ex-girlfriend. After some thought, I accepted her friend request. Immediately, she sent me some photos and videos all showing Kevin taking care of her daily life, carrying her to bed, feeding her, helping her up the stairs. At night when she was afraid to sleep, Kevin sat by the bedside with her, holding her, telling her, with him, Kevin, there was nothing to fear, and so on. I didn't even finish listening and stopped. Seeing that I didn't respond, she sent a voice message, "I'm sorry. Kevin said he still can't forget me, so I came back. The day he came to pick me up, the moment we met, we couldn't control ourselves. And, I have a body that's easy to conceive. I got pregnant right away, you know?" Kevin was so moved he cried, saying he would definitely be a good father and provide a good living environment for the child. "Sorry about this, I think the baby I'm carrying is a girl. Kevin has always wanted a daughter. You've been married for 4 or 5 years and only had a boy. Kevin doesn't like boys at all. I don't know who between them is telling the truth or lying, but this marriage has to end, as long as I have enough evidence." So, I didn't reply to his ex-girlfriend's provocation. Soon after, she sent me a WeChat message with a photo of food, saying, "Look, the breakfast he bought me." After much thought, I decided not to keep the child. With evidence of his infidelity in hand, I contacted his ex-girlfriend in advance and told her that if she followed my instructions, I would smoothly help her take his place. I had her cling to Kevin and not ask for custody of the son. As expected, Kevin, that scumbag, still listened most to his first love. He didn't want custody of the son and agreed to pay me 50,000 yuan a month in child support. Additionally, during the child's high school and college years, he must pay for the child's tuition and living expenses every year. All future costs for the child's marriage and home purchase will also be borne by him. He originally disagreed, but I told him, "Then you raise the son." I also warned that all the loans his company had with the bank would no longer continue, along with many business partners who cooperated because of me. Once I mentioned the company, he got scared. He agreed to my request and paid the child support on time every month. Neither set of parents knew about the divorce, especially Kevin's parents, who liked me very much. I was smart, capable, filial, and came from a good family. It was also because of me that Kevin succeeded in his startup after we got together. Even after the divorce, I often took the child to visit their grandparents. Until Kevin got married, Grandma called me, crying in front of me, saying her son was a fool and apologizing to me. She hoped I would still visit them in the future, and I promised I would. After all, they were innocent in all this. After the divorce, I often used the excuse that the child missed their father to send the child to him. I also had the child call him and invited him over, asking him to take us out to eat. Actually, every time we go out, I don't eat the food he buys for our son. I always use the excuse that I'm not hungry, that I can't eat, because sharing a table and meals with him is hard for me to swallow. On one hand, I don't want our son to feel the pain that divorce brings. I want to minimize the damage of this single-parent situation. On the other hand, when Kevin's ex-girlfriend just came back, wasn't she trying to provoke me? Didn't Kevin treat her well just because he couldn't have her? I want to see how she feels when Kevin finally gets her, and she's no longer his white moonlight, while the kids and I are the ones who spend time with him. At Christmas, the child's grandmother invited us over, and Kevin and his wife were there too. I acted even closer to the grandmother than usual, deliberately calling her auntie. I knew the old lady wouldn't agree to me calling her that, and sure enough, she cried and said, "Evelyn, just call me Mom. You are my best daughter-in-law, and you will always be my good daughter-in-law. I will always be your mother-in-law and mom." I smiled and said, "Okay, Mom, from now on we're mother and daughter." The child is also very close to his grandparents. Although Luna is pregnant, the former mother-in-law doesn't really show her any care. Because I've always had a good relationship with my grandparents, when I went over, I acted just like usual, helping her cook and clean the kitchen, behaving like one big family. It made Kevin's new wife feel completely invisible. When I left, they too went ahead, and Grandma asked her son to stay a few days. She also packed some dumplings and buns she made for me. As I was going downstairs, I noticed they were already arguing down there. Luna said, "What does your mom mean by this? Calling your ex-wife and son over during the holidays makes me feel like an outsider. I'm the real daughter-in-law of this family." Kevin said, "She's always been like this when she comes. You just need to be more proactive and get along with my parents, and everything will be fine." Luna replied, "With you around, your parents will always invite her over. Where's my chance to shine?" Kevin said, "After all, the son is their eldest grandson. When the child grows up, it might be the child who comes over, and Evelyn won't come back. Don't be angry, don't be angry." With that, they drove off. Luna was about to give birth, and I still often called Kevin over in the name of our son. He didn't want to come, and Luna wouldn't let him come either, but whenever our son cried on the phone, he would make time to come. Sometimes, when he stayed late playing with our son, he would even stay overnight. I would let him lie beside our son, giving them space, and then I would make do in the living room for the night. The next day, Luna showed up, calling me a mistress, and even tried to hit me. I grabbed her arm and said, "A mistress? Someone like Kevin is only truly suited to you. Think about what kind of status you used to rise up. Kevin, even if he paid me, I wouldn't want it, but every day it really feels like he's paying me. When we were together before, he never treated the child this well. Luna is probably carrying a daughter, but because the daughter belongs to a boss, not Kevin, Kevin once swore he would care for her like his own child. At that time, it was just empty words because they weren't together. Maybe Kevin likes the thrill of sneaking around? Now that they're together day and night, he's already grown impatient with the child in Luna's belly. Plus, as Luna's pregnancy progresses, her hands and feet swell, she's gained weight, and her hair is falling out badly, looking just like a middle-aged woman. And since our divorce until now, Luna has been pregnant the whole time. They can't be husband and wife in the usual way, so Kevin has started coming over under various pretexts to visit the son, buy food, and bring some daily necessities to the house, as if we were still one family. Every time Kevin stayed out late, I had to urge him to come home. I said, "Hurry back, don't keep your wife waiting. I don't want her showing up and calling me the other woman or something like that." Kevin kept coming home later and later, not wanting to go back. Finally, he said in frustration, "Evelyn, I regret it. I don't know what kind of medicine I took to want to divorce you and marry her. Can we ever go back to how things were?" I said, "In your dreams. Once our son turns 18, we'll have nothing to do with each other. I probably won't marry again in this lifetime. Having my son is enough for me. After he goes to school away from home, don't come to my house anymore." Kevin came home very late every night. Eventually, Luna couldn't take it anymore. She called him every night, urging him to come back, even video calling to ask if he was with me. Kevin snapped, "Yes, I'm with Evelyn. We're a family of 3. Luna accused me of being the other woman over the video call. Kevin said, "Before you say that, think about yourself. If you hadn't been the other woman, forcing Evelyn, how would we have ended up divorced?" I didn't say a word, just watched them argue over the phone. Suddenly, I heard Luna mention her stomach hurting, and Kevin realized something was seriously wrong. He hurried back home. Seeing Luna lying on the floor, crying out in pain, he called an ambulance and took her to the hospital. Luna gave birth prematurely to a daughter, but whose child was she really? At first, Kevin said the child wasn't his, but Luna insisted the baby was his. After the child was born, they did a paternity test at the hospital, and sure enough, the child was not Kevin's. Although Kevin knew the child wasn't his, he initially hoped to quietly support Luna from the outside, taking care of her and the baby in her womb. But once he married Luna, his feelings for the child vanished completely. Kevin's family was unaware of the situation and still believed the child was truly Kevin's. Kevin's mother had been ready to accept Luna and her daughter once the baby was born. However, when she visited the hospital, a young nurse remarked, "Who does this little girl look like? She doesn't resemble her father or mother at all." That planted a seed of doubt in Kevin's mother's mind. She noticed Kevin wasn't happy at all. Kevin had always wanted a daughter, and now, in his second marriage, he had a girl with the woman he loved, but he showed no joy whatsoever. A mother knows her child best. Kevin's mother immediately sensed something was wrong. She pulled Kevin aside to quietly question him, and then left without returning to the hospital room. As soon as I got out, I called him and said, "Evelyn, my dear daughter-in-law, when are you coming back to my house? Kevin is so clueless. If he doesn't divorce that woman, I will never let him bring that woman and that bastard anywhere near our home again." A senior fellow apprentice, Marcus, who had always pursued me, came back from out of town to see me. He had been chasing after me, but I always rejected him. After I got married, we lost contact. This time, he heard about my divorce and came looking for me again. Looking at him, he's still the same as before, somewhat humorous and witty. Although I didn't like that kind of person before, my failed marriage with Kevin has made me grow a lot. Happiness is what matters most in life, and being with someone so witty will definitely bring joy. I originally planned never to marry again, but now, suddenly, I feel like getting married. I agreed to give it a try with him. When Marcus heard me agree to give it a try, he came back from out of town. He was originally a very capable person at work, promoted and given a raise at a big company here. He was very good to me and our son. He said if I still refused him, he would never get married in his life. Whenever Kevin came to my house, I would say, "Well, since you're here, just come in and see the child." Then I would go out on dates with Marcus. On the days Kevin didn't come, Marcus stayed with the child while I sat nearby watching. I asked Marcus if he might be like Kevin in the future, good to me but no longer good to my son once he got what he wanted. Marcus said, "Words are easy to say, but actions prove it." Before we were even married, he transferred all his money to my account, leaving only a few $100 a month for living expenses. He also took the initiative to open a bank book for my son, giving most of the money to him, since if there were more children in the future, he would be the eldest. After observing Marcus for a while, we got married. On the day of our wedding, Kevin and his wife had been fighting all night, and early in the morning, my phone was flooded with calls from Kevin saying they were going to get a divorce that day. On the very day we got married and they divorced, someone Luna met out of town showed up. It was the girl's biological father, a man in his 60s. The old man had no children of his own and took the girl away, demanding 8,000 yuan a month in child support from Luna, who was unemployed. Because Luna was born prematurely, during her postpartum confinement she got into angry arguments that damaged her health, and as a result, she would never be able to conceive again.